friends. Hi, Ryan. How are you this Thursday? Or how are you this? We were just talking about a show from Thursday. How are you this Friday morning?
I'm
Beautiful
doing
out.
fantastic. Thank you for having me on. My pleasure. I'm so happy that you have took the step and made the plunge and you're doing this. It's great, Ashley. Good job for you.
Thank you so much. I've been really liking the new project. I was just telling you it a lot more effort goes into it than maybe I give everyone credit for. So it's been really nice to prove to myself that I could get started and learn the little things. I was telling Vish the other day when I figured out how to do the banner the first time, I kept putting it where my name is. And it
Mm,
was it's not hard at all, but I felt too much gratification for the fact that I did it. I was like, oh yes, good.
yeah. Well, like
But
everything else in life, there's nothing to it but to do it. You just got to get out there and do it. You'll learn as you go, just like everything else. So you're doing great.
thank you. I saw that you've been doing Pelotoning. I want to do. Have you heard of the 75 hard
No.
challenge?
Mm,
Okay, it's like the principle of it I think is too it's like too hard. I want to do like the soft version because I want everything to be like I feel like if you put stress on yourself, that's not good for you.
hmm
Um but you just like work out twice a day, but one of the workouts can be like a walk, and I feel like I kind of do that anyways, and you don't drink and all this other stuff. I don't know. I told myself I was going to do it a while ago.
Oh, I
The
have heard
thing
of that. Yeah, I have
the
heard
thing
of that.
that's hard is you have to read like a nonfiction book every
I,
day.
I have heard of it. It's called Habits, right? It's something Habits. I'm reading a book
Automatic
right now.
Habits is a
I'm
book.
reading the book right now. I have heard of it. Yes, I apologize. Yes, you're right. I have heard of it.
Yeah.
Hmm
Well, I was just gonna say your updates on your journey have been inspiring to me. I started it and then got in kind of a relationship, and I was just like, threw all that out the window,
hmm
and I want to get back. I want to get back into it because I think that would make me feel good. I do a lot of like the exercise stuff already. I'm
hmm
just a big late night snacker, and I feel like that kind of hurts my tummy. But that's
Yeah.
not what people came here for. I just saw you and wanted to congratulate you. I teach spin, and I got into spin in college. Yeah, in college, and I
Mm.
love it. Love the music. I feel like makes the workout go by so much easier. You can like really get into it. I've never done Peloton. I've heard that's the
It's
peak.
hella fun. It's fun. Honestly, I'm surprised at how weak my legs are. I can do the cadence, like the cadence, but the resistance, I'm like, damn,
I
I can't
love
do I can't
I
do it.
love the resistance.
Yeah,
You
I'm
you
getting
got to
there.
get like a good song. So is that I feel like not everyone's into this music, but I feel like more like house music can be nice because like the build up, you're like, oh, I'm grinding through. But
Hmm
anyway, speaking of grinding through things, I think that the Dallas Cowboys are not very good. I think they're kind of front runners, and I'm super excited for this game coming up.
hmm
The Cowboys they've been sweet talking the 49ers. Jerry Jones came out and said this is going to be if they won, it would be inspirational. Micah Parsons really changed his tune from 2021 when he said like we're going to bully the bullies. This coming into this game, he gave Brock Purdy a ton of praise. He's given Brock Purdy a ton of praise. He
hmm
has said talked about Hargrave, Bosa. Really, they're why do you think they're talking up the Niners so much? Do you think they're coming into this with a different mindset than maybe they have in previous games?
Because they can't beat the Niners and they're in their feelings. Yeah, I mean that's what it's about. I mean, it's funny. I mean, it is a rivalry, and I get it because I'm an old head and I remember the '90s and all that good stuff. But if you're talking about recently, I mean, to be a rivalry, you got to beat. You get both teams got to win. And the Cowboys haven't. So I'm not sure how much of a real rivalry it is. It's a historical rivalry,
Yeah.
and I feel like they're in their feelings, man. They want to talk. They know if they lose this game, it's a bad look because that makes 3 years in a row they lost to the Niners, and if we see them in the playoffs, that mentality has got to be in their head a little bit. And I think it's in their head right now. You saw how Dak responded to when he was questioned about losing to the 49ers.
Yeah,
So I mean, they're just
sensitive.
trying to make themselves feel better. I guess we'll see what happens on Sunday, but I expect the Niners to win.
Definitely came off extremely sensitive. I had heard that point before, kind of like if the 49ers were to win this game, we were to meet them in the playoffs, they would be like mentally defeated, which I like as a 49er fan. I like that framing of it. But then also I think of the Rams and I'm like, all right, well, regular season doesn't super matter. I feel like as a 49ers fan so far this season, I feel kind of spoiled. I'm almost like, all right, let's get to the playoffs and get the real games going because we're just steamrolling all these guys. So how about you? Do you think this is going to be the first real test that the 49ers have faced so far, or going into this game, Dallas Cowboys seem to be in their feelings, potentially taking it pretty seriously. How do you think the Niners are coming into this game?
Yeah, I mean, the Cowboys, this is the first test for the 49ers. The 49ers opponents so far have a combined win record of like 37.5, 6-10. So they haven't played any good teams yet. The Cowboys have won 3 games, lost 1, but they lost to the Cardinals, a team that we beat. So it is the best challenge that the 49ers have faced so far for sure, even though the Cowboys did lose to the Cardinals. They were missing 3 offensive linemen, their 3 best offensive linemen when they played the Cardinals. But the problem for the Cowboys against the Cardinals is they gave up 221 rushing yards, I think. So that's going to be a problem when you're facing CMC. If Kyle Shanahan does what we do, which is run the ball and attacks the Cowboys' weakness, which is the run defense, the Niners should have a good day. The problem is like Kyle, like in the playoffs, sometimes I think he gets in his head. He outthinks himself a little bit. Like he started the game last year trying to be a little too creative in the passing game instead of just running the ball down their throats, because the Cowboys defense is really good. They're good in the pass rush. They have good secondary. Whether they do struggle, they give up like 110 yards per game against the rushing game, against the rush. And the Niners are really good rushing the ball. So I hope Kyle's not thinking too much and we just go out there and run the ball. And if we do that, it'll be a good day for the 49ers. But yeah, it is going to be the best test to answer your question of the 49ers this far. And that's why I'm looking forward to it. We'll see what both teams are made of after Sunday.
Yeah, I think right now the 49ers are like 3.5 point favorites in the odds to win, but the Niners are hosting, so that's like basically a pick 'em. Now, I don't know if that's because I think the Cowboys always, and this could be my bias, but I feel like the Cowboys always get like a little bit more credit than they deserve just because the media really likes to talk about them. But I mean, I agree. I think it'll be the toughest matchup that they've seen so far. I think if we were to talk about keys to victory against the Cowboys, I think how you were saying running the ball, that's going to help negate Micah Parsons for sure. And I think I saw that too. They're like 26th in the league against the run. I feel like this is going to be a huge CMC game. They're also they're not very good at preventing yak. So I could see like CMC Debo game this week. I was talking about Brandon Ayuk's chemistry and him going off the other day, and I have a friend who plays fantasy who's always a little bit frustrated with the 49ers because they're like, one game they're doing so good, and then the next game Brandon Ayuk could have like not very many targets. And I do feel like this game, I think obviously he'll be utilized, but I think it'll be a big run game, CMC, Debo, yards after the catch game, because that's where the Cowboys struggle. You're right. If Kyle Shanahan doesn't get in his head, I feel like going against Dan Quinn, I feel like they kind of try to predict what the other one thinks they're going to do and then try to do differently than that instead of just being like, this is what I'm good at, this is what I'm going to do. They get a little too they try to get a little too cute and try to outthink each other. I remember, I think it was Juszczyk said in that playoff game that he went up to Kyle and was like, hey, Kyle, can we just run the ball? Because they were struggling and Kyle was trying to do too many cute things. And it's like, we're going to out physical them. Like if this was just us, out muscling them or going up against who can be the tougher opponent, we're going to win. If you're trying to be cute, you're making things more difficult than they need to be.
Yeah.
So
yeah, you're right. Yeah. That's the keys to the victory. You just put it down for everybody. Actually, that's what the Niners need to do. Not outthink themselves, be aggressive in the run game, and just stick with it, because that's what the Cowboys' weakness is. The Niners in the playoffs, they did this against the Cowboys. They did it against the Eagles, where the weaknesses that the Cowboys had, the weaknesses the Eagles had was their run defense. But for some reason, Kyle was outthinking himself, trying to just do a little too much. Just stick to what you do best, which is run the ball, and the Niners should have a really good day. I think that is the absolute key to victory. If you're trying to put it on Brock Purdy against his pass rush, and leave Colton McKivitz out there on the island for too long, it's going to be problems. So that's the key.
Yeah, and the Niners, I mean, they've had really good turnover luck, but protecting the ball has been extremely important, and has coincided with their win streak. So so is CMC. So both of those things, protecting the ball, running the hell out of the ball, seems like the way to win. I think the Cowboys are going to have a similar strategy, though. Like if you to negate Bosa, I think they're going to try to get the ball out super quick. Dallas this year is like leading the league and getting the ball. Dak is throwing the ball in like 2 seconds. They're really trying to minimize Dak's mistakes. He's only thrown 1 interception this year, and that was at the end of the game against the Cardinals. So I think they have a similar strategy. I just think when you put our players against their players, the 49ers are going to be way more physical than they will be. Are you nervous about our defense against the Dallas offense at all? I was going to put up a little thing, but it's not working. And you're frozen. Did I do something wrong? Hi, guys. Ryan might come back.
What's going on, everybody? Was that my internet or was that Ashley's internet? I'm going to hang.
I don't know what happened. Hi guys. Ryan might come back, maybe. I'm assuming. I have no idea what happened. But I will talk about I will say hi to Cowboys are Frauds. Hi, Chase. In 2021, I lived in Santa Barbara, and they would never play the games on our local television. I just had normal cable. I didn't get like NFL Plus or anything at the time, and I used to watch your play-by-plays all the time. They are so good, and I'm so glad you have those for so many people. I'm going to add Ryan to the stage again.
What happened? Was that me? Was that my internet?
No idea. I don't know.
All right, sorry. It could have been mine. Mine has known to do that from time to time. I apologize.
It's all good. I've read some of the comments. I saw a 49ers report by Chad Sports, which I know is Chase. Yeah. When I was in Santa Barbara, they sometimes wouldn't have the 49ers game on the local cable channel, and I didn't have like NFL Plus or anything like that, and I used to play his stuff and like go for walks, and I'd be like trying to like watch the highlights and listen to what he said and just like fake watch the game all the time.
Chase is cool. Chase is a cool guy. Yeah, I like Chase. He's been on the show a few times. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I remember when you first started your channel, you did like you kind of interviewed everyone. I thought that was such a genius way to like get to find out more about the people that we're watching every day in this little community. I really liked that.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah. You learn as you go, and you change and adjust and improve, and it's part of the process.
Okay, speaking of learning, I just learned how to deal with if the stream crashes. But what I was gonna ask
there you go
is what I was gonna ask you is we were talking about keys to victory for Dallas if they were to win. I think that they would have a similar strategy. They're going to try to get Pollard to run the ball. They're going to try to get the ball out quick to negate Nick Bosa and minimize mistakes from Dak. I just think if you put both offenses doing that, attempting that same exact strategy, I think the Niners have the better talent and the better players and the better play caller. However, the 49ers have had a little bit of struggles. Now, I want to be clear. I know that Nick Bosa is making a huge impact with all the pressures he's creating, and that he's creating opportunities for sacks for the other D linemen. But Nick Bosa hasn't been getting his sacks like he normally has, and the defense have been. Sometimes I'm watching the game, and in my brain, I'm like, "Oh, we're winning by 25," because this feels like a blowout. On every possible opportunity the Niners are scoring, like in my brain, I'm like, oh, this is so dominant. But then you look at the score and you're like, oh, why is the defense kind of letting them hang around? So I've noticed some defensive struggles. Have you, and are you worried about that going into this game when we are talking about Dallas potentially, how they're going to strategize to beat the 49ers?
To be real with you, actually, not really. No, I'll tell you why. I think what we're seeing from Nick Bosa is now that you have Javon Hargrave up the middle, it's a different pursuit towards the quarterback. So a lot of times, what would happen was Nick Bosa would apply pressure, and the quarterback has to step up. And now, instead of Nick Bosa cleaning it up, is Hargrave is cleaning it up, or Jake Jackson is cleaning it up. So Nick Bosa is still applying pressure, but teams are aware of Nick Bosa for sure, right? And so they're getting the ball out quick. And what the 49ers are going to see this Sunday is a different, what 49er fans are going to see this Sunday is a different Cowboys offense. They are dinking and dunking the shit out of the ball, more of a West Coast offense. They're getting the ball out quick, a lot of short, quick passes. So I don't know how much of that's going to change. And the Cowboys offensive line is actually really good as well. So I'm not expecting a ton of sacks by Nick Bosa or any of the Niners. I don't think there's going to be a big sack week necessarily because Dak has changed the way he's approaching. Well, the Cowboys have changed the way they're approaching the offense. Again, it's a lot of short, quick passes, and that's why Dak's turnover are down. He only has one. I know Brock has zero, but Dak only has one. So it's very similar game plans from both sides. The real difference, I would say, is Cowboys have a better offensive line. They have a really good pass rush, maybe better than the Niners, if we're being real. But I think the 49ers offense under Kyle Shanahan is going to be a little bit more dangerous with the weapons that they got. Kyle knows what he's doing. Quinn knows what he's doing. It's going to be a good matchup. But I think the biggest difference in this game is that the Cowboys just can't stop the run. And if Kyle's smart enough to exploit that, Niners should have a great day.
Definitely. They had some offensive line injuries going into that Cardinals game. Have you heard that they're doing better? I know.
Yeah, they're good now. They're back now. From what I understand, it's a healthy offensive line.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, it will be interesting. I think the Niners are also going to have to get the ball out quick because I'm sure that they're going to line Parsons up against that right side a lot. Do you think that the use of CMC is going to be a problem? Do you think he's going to be utilized just as much as he was, or as he has been? Do you think that Kyle will try to get Jordan Mason the ball? I think Elijah Mitchell from last practice was still out. I don't know how he'll be.
Yeah, Elijah Mitchell. I don't know about this guy. I mean, he's always hurt. Unfortunately, he's good when he's healthy, but
good, but always hurt. You're like, that was such a great one game that you had.
Yeah,
see you in 7 weeks.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's the case. I've been wanting Kyle to dial it back a little bit with CMC for the longevity aspect and making sure he's healthy. But this is the one game you probably don't want to do that. This is the game where you use CMC as much as you need to because it's their weakness and he's really fucking good. This team, excuse my language, I don't know if I'm allowed to cuss on your stream, but this is the team that you want to go all in on and beat. This is going to be the best team that we played so far. So this game, I'm not. Hey, if we blow them out somehow and it's out of hand, yes, please dial back CMC and put somebody else in there. But I'm all for CMC in this game. I think they need to and they have to.
I agree with that. I feel like in previous games I was kind of like reserve him for the Cowboys game. I even think they'll probably want to utilize him a lot. Going, not getting ahead of ourselves, but going to the Browns game because they have a really good defense as well. Mm-hmm. But my hope was kind of that those games that stuck out more would be the games that he was getting, 23 plus touches and not, against the Rams and the Cardinals, who are more feisty than I gave them credit for in the beginning of the season. I will say that's been
I like that.
Right. Like they definitely present a challenge. The Bengals are going to go against the Cardinals this week, and I'm interested in that because that's I feel like in the beginning of the season you'd be like, oh, that's a get right game for the Bengals, but the Cardinals are out there playing for Gannon, which is interesting because that video of him being like zoom 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 in the beginning,
right.
Caleb Williams, this is your team.
Yeah. No, they're doing a good job. The Cardinals are better than we expected. The Rams are better than we expected. A lot of these teams that. That's the thing about NFL. Every season you think this team's going to be good. This schedule's hard. This schedule's good. They're easy. And then the games start going and you realize that people aren't who we thought. Like, I'm sure people thought the Giants are going to be better than they are this year. Nobody expected the Rams to be as good as they are this year. Nobody expected the Cardinals to be as good as they are this year. So, that's NFL. That's what makes it great.
Yeah. I think even coming into the season, I thought this game – for some reason, I just thought I was like, oh, it'll maybe be a loss because if you go through it, I always try to put a little bit, if I'm like hesitant, I'll be like, okay, I'll put that as a loss, because I'd rather like think that we're going to be like 10 and whatever than like be like, oh, we're going to win 17, because I'm just going to be disappointed when the 49ers don't do that. Not where, when they don't do that.
Yeah.
But I feel way more confident about the game this week than I did at the beginning of the season, just seeing how the Cowboys have been and how impressive Purdy has been coming off his elbow, and how the team has been flowing. Speaking of that, really quickly, let's touch on, do you think, because Purdy has played really proficiently so far, coming into the season, how, like, are you impressed with how Purdy has been so far? Do you think would you consider him playing at a top level quarterback right now? How would you compare him to Dak Prescott currently? And do you think that's even like kind of a fair question to compare them as quarterbacks, since Dak has been in the league for so long and Purdy, although having great success, hasn't maybe done it for such a long period of time?
Yeah, one thing that's interesting about Dak Prescott and Brock Purdy is they both, if you look at their first 14 games, whatever it's been for Brock Purdy, they both balled out their rookie years. I mean, I consider this, I know Brock's not a rookie, but he only got a handful of games in his rookie year, so it's been about the same sample size. Dak Prescott balled out his rookie year, and since then he hasn't quite been the same. He had another good year after that, but he's kind of been a mixed bag. And Brock Purdy so far has been such a small sample size. From what we see from him, he looks perfect for this offense, for Kyle Shanahan. And I was, hesitant on crowning him, but like in the NFL, you really don't know. You can't really judge a quarterback for 2-3 years. I was ready to write off Justin Fields 3 weeks ago. Now, the last two games, I'm like, damn, shit, I was wrong about Justin Fields. He's actually doing this thing, and now I'm more encouraged with Justin Fields. So it's hard. There's a lot of NFL quarterbacks that start really hot and then taper off. There's a lot of NFL quarterbacks that start awful and then develop later on. So it is a very small sample size from Brock Purdy, but based on what he's doing so far and what he's doing this year, I think it's the perfect match between him and his talents and Kyle Shanahan and these weapons. He's in a good situation, but he's also doing a really good job. Now, there is some statistics that people really don't want to talk about because the Niners are winning and Brock Purdy's never lost and all that. But he is sixth in most turnover-worthy plays. He has no turnover, so people don't want to talk about him, but he's sixth in the most turnover.
The luck has been crazy.
It has been throughout his whole life, for his rookie year and this year.
Like karate chopped a interception away.
So I think the question is that going to continue to everything, the ball going to continue to bounce his way, or at some point are these things going to pop up and he's going to start turning the ball over? I don't know, but all I know is so far he's playing great. He's playing better than Dak is this year. Now, is he better than Dak? I don't know if I'm ready to say that. Dak has a large body of experience. I think Niner fans underestimate Dak a lot because of how he performs against the Niners, but it's different offensive, different situations. It's really hard to do that. You kind of got to like put each player on, like you got to in your head, like you got to put Dak Prescott on the Niners with these weapons, with this offense.
That's how I like to think about it too.
Yeah. And I think if Dak was on the Niners with this team and this weapons and this play caller, he would be pretty freaking good, to be honest. Yeah.
Definitely. I like to ask myself, how would they perform on the Niners? And also, like, would the Niners currently trade for them? You know what I mean? I think both of those are interesting questions. I do think Purdy is this year right now a really good fit. And I definitely was more hesitant coming into the season. We can move around a little bit really quick. But coming into the season, I definitely, with his elbow, with not being able to create that chemistry with his receivers, which all these things that I had questions on, like his chemistry with Ayuk seems incredible. I've seen them in the game just like kind of look at each other and you see Ayuk adjust to the ball. And I think a big thing is like the confidence that he has in his receivers. Like if you're going to compare him to Jimmy or something, I think he's throwing balls that some of the quarterbacks that the 49ers have wouldn't attempt. And he's trusting that his guys will make it look like a good throw. But I wanted to ask you if you feel like Kyle Shanahan is evolving, because when we're talking about Purdy and the success that he's having, it makes me think of how complimentary Kyle has been. He comes off very smitten with Purdy when he's asked questions that maybe frame Purdy in a negative light. I know he was asked if he thought Purdy was like a system quarterback. He went to back and basically said that was a stupid question and people need to watch tape when he's like prompted to say anything about him on this offseason. He called him the real deal. I'm wondering, do you think that was a mental like shift that Kyle Shanahan chose to do? Like, do you think coming into the season, he was like, I've decided that to take my coaching and make my team to a new level, I'm going to get solely behind one quarterback and one guy? Or do you think that because Brock Purdy has performed so well, Kyle is now talking that, you know what I mean? Do you think it was like a decision? Like, I'm going to speak about him differently than I did Jimmy or Trey or these other people? Or do you think he's actually performing so much better, I have like no choice but to gush about how much I, like him?
Yeah, I mean, well, there's a lot in there. So as far as like his reaction to the press conference, that's what he's going to say, no matter what, right? He'd probably say that about Jimmy, even though it wasn't true. But is he evolving? I think he is evolving a little bit, but I think, you gave me two options. I'm going to say option B, which was Brock Purdy is doing what Kyle Shanahan wants him to do. And he finally has a quarterback that he's comfortable calling plays for. With Jimmy, it was more like trying to win despite Jimmy. Now it's like, let's win. We can win with Brock. He's not afraid to dial up things for Brock like he was with Jimmy. So I think what we're seeing from Kyle Shanahan is a guy who's happy because he finally has a quarterback on this team that he trusts, that he can dial up plays for. And I think that's the biggest difference that we're seeing from Kyle. We're seeing a coach that's finally has a quarterback that he actually believes in. I think that's more of what we're seeing than anything else.
Yeah. It is kind of interesting. Like, I feel like I used to play the hypothetical game with Kyle Shanahan when we had just Jimmy G and when Trey was like sitting, where I would sometimes question, like, if Kyle had Patrick Mahomes, would he be like utilizing him? I think a lot of people have been like, okay, well, in Atlanta, he used Matt Ryan this way, but then I know he went on the Flying Coach podcast in the 2022 offseason, and he kind of like gave himself shit for how that offense was run, and you could tell that he had done like a lot of self-scouting and that he wanted to run his offense differently. So then I was like, okay, even if he had a quarterback who he could throw it deep with or do all these things with, would he want to utilize those abilities? And I remember, like, would he want to I used to question his aggressiveness a lot, not going for it on fourth down. Like, if he had a quarterback that he trusted, like a Mahomes, would these stylistic choices change, or is this like who he is as a person? And I kind of thought like this is who he is as a person. So it's been really interesting seeing him. I do think that he has evolved. Now, I wonder, is this evolution like permanent, or like if Purdy did have a downslope, would it be like tightrope again, you know? And obviously you need some of that. You need to be able to like adjust, but yeah, I lost my train of thought a little bit.
No, it's all good. So why Kyle likes Brock Purdy is that he runs Kyle's offense exactly how Kyle wants him to run it. So Kyle is not. I still don't think Kyle is good at adjusting his offense around his quarterback. I think he's more about, let me find a quarterback that can do everything exactly how I want them to do it. And he found that with Brock Purdy, and I think that's why he's so happy, because he has a quarterback that's going to run his system the way he wants it ran. I think with Trey Lance, I don't think this offense, so because you brought up Trey Lance, like I don't think this offense was a good fit for Trey Lance. And I think Kyle made a mistake in his evaluation of Trey Lance. If he wanted Trey Lance to run this offense the way Brock Purdy's running this offense, that wasn't your guy.
Yeah.
You made a mistake there. But Brock Purdy does run things exactly how he wants it run. But what's good about Brock Purdy, he's also not scared to make throws. And Jimmy, and for whatever reason, whether it was Kyle in his head, mad about his turnover or whatever it is, I don't know what it was, but Jimmy was just gun shy. He actually has a better arm than Brock Purdy, Jimmy Garoppolo, but he was never pulling the trigger on those deep throws. Brock Purdy, even though his arm strength's not that strong, he's not scared to let it go, and he has great anticipation. and he can process really well. He sees the field really well. He's a great playmaker, even off script. But I just think Kyle has found a perfect marriage with Brock Purdy. He does exactly what he wants to do, and he does it for pennies on the dollar. So it's a good fit for right now.
I agree. Definitely for right now, in with all the talent they are able to have around him. And I agree. I think I personally overlooked maybe that mental aspect of the quarterback position as much,
Yeah,
as like such an important characteristic and trait. But seeing seeing how Brock Purdy from day one knew that his job was to like come in with confidence and leadership and be able to like convince the other players that he wasn't scared and that
yeah,
he could do it, whether or not like he had actually proven he could do it yet. I think that was a huge deal and um, something that kind of held Jimmy back from being able to like utilize all of Jimmy Garoppolo's abilities. And you hear Kyle Shanahan, he even said like that he'll work on asking Brock Purdy, okay, what plays are you comfortable and stuff like that. I do feel like he didn't, at least you didn't really, you heard Jimmy kind of say like these plays suck. It didn't seem like they had as much of a collaborative relationship
yeah,
as Kyle has with Purdy. I do think some of that has to do with like I has to do with Kyle kind of maybe choosing favorites isn't the right way to say it, but I think because he likes Purdy, he's like, okay, I'm gonna now put in the time and effort to like work with you and figure out what you like and make this scheme friendly for you, and like I am gonna show you that I trust you. And I think with Jimmy, I think because it felt like there was like some resentment there. Maybe Kyle didn't ever truly want him, and then we know now that like Jimmy wasn't responsive in the offseason and stuff. I think Kyle side-eyed that. And then because he didn't like him, it was like almost out of, and then this is me conspiracy theory, but it felt like out of spite. He was just like, okay, well, I'm going to show the world that this is my scheme and that I'm the best. And I'm going to show that you're just a product of this system. And I'm not going to work with you. And I'm not going to necessarily make things super easy for you, which is kind of sad because it's like, that's a little bit like in your ego. And maybe if you would have worked with Jimmy better, you could have won a Super Bowl or had better results. But that's kind of hindsight. I'm glad with Brock, he seems to be doing that. I just hope that's like a more of a mental choice and not just like a specific, like, oh, you're bringing this out of me. It's like, okay, well, what happens if this player goes away or you get a new quarterback or this player gets hurt? Like, are you gonna carry this into your new relationship with your next quarterback?
yeah. No, I just think it's natural, right? When you like somebody, you can work with them. And I just think he likes Brock. Brock's a likable guy. He's doing everything he asked for. He's committed on the offseason. I mean, look how quickly he fought his way back from injury. He's just a likable guy. He's doing everything Kyle wants. They have a good relationship. Kyle and Jimmy did not have that relationship. It was a very different dynamic. And what we're seeing is what happens when Kyle finds a guy who can run the system the way he wants it, who he also has a really good relationship with. And it's good to see. So far, so good. I'm excited about it.
Do you think this is just the side note ish, but like everyone always talks about Kyle's love for Kirk Cousins? Do you think if Brock Purdy stays healthy and all this, like if money was not a factor and Kyle could just snap his fingers right now, would he switch Kirk Cousins for Purdy? Or do you think he's really smitten? I do think they're in the honeymoon stage. Like this might be a better question to ask. And also Kirk Cousins is older and stuff now, so it's not a super fair comparison.
Mhm.
But I just would be interested in your opinion because people do always talk about that, long lost love between Kyle
Him and Kirk.
and Kurt, and I feel like I see that in him and Purdy. I'm like he's giddy. He just won't stop smiling. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah,
the new relationship when you like lose weight and you're dressing better and you just that's how they see it.
yeah. Kirk was his first love, but he's finally, after years and years of trying to get over Kirk, he finally found his new boo. So, yeah, no, I mean, I think Kirk is very talented as far as being a thrower of the football. He can process just as well as Brock can. He can make better throws than Brock can. What Brock is good at is his mobility in the pocket and just his escape ability, where Kirk is just like a statue. So I'm not sure which one he would prefer. Would he prefer a guy that can make all the throws, or does he prefer the guy that can avoid the pass rush, which is what you have in Brock Purdy? I'm not sure. If they were both same age, same dollar, uh, That's tough. I don't know. Because nowadays with the NFL, the way it is, the pass rushers are so elite. You really need that escapability that Brock has.
Yeah.
It's probably more important than the ability to make all the throws, honestly. So I don't know. That's tough. We're gonna see how it plays out. But I don't. This rumor of Kirk Cousins coming. I like Kirk Cousins. I think he's underrated by a lot of people, especially the Niner fans. But at this price and the way Brock is playing, yeah, you can forget about it if this continues.
I think you're right about Cousins being a little bit underrated. Going back to that like Brock versus Dak discussion that we were having,
Mm-hmm.
I think there is something that as fans you kind of overlook the like how incredible it is to be in the league for so long, like to consistently be a starter in this league over and over again for however many years that both Dak and Cousins have been doing it. It is extremely impressive. And what Purdy is doing is phenomenal. And if he does this for that long, he's in the Hall of Fame, best quarterback. We won't even be talking about Brady anymore. That's not true, but he'll be incredible. But the longevity is a big thing when reflecting on like how good a quarterback can be. And we're just not there yet with Purdy. But as we've been going along, I've been keeping an open mind, and I'm definitely extremely impressed with what I've seen. Outdone my expectations for sure. This kind of leads me into a different question. So I was having this talk with on Twitter. People have been talking about Christian McCaffrey for MVP, Offensive Player of the Year, stuff like that. Is that possible? Running back. So I was with a friend, Bucks fan, so she needs to work out her life choices anyways. But I was like, oh yeah, like I think that if the 49ers end up getting the number 1 seed, I know right now the Eagles are also undefeated and talking, I'm going on too many tangents, but I think the Eagles will get better as the season goes on because they have new coordinators, which also I think is an issue that we're having with our defense that we didn't really mention in the defensive struggles. I think that Steve Wilkes is just getting into a flow as well with things, and that the defense will get even better. I was listening to Jesse, and he was talking about different areas of our defense have started slow every year, regardless. And if you think about that, like D'Amico was in the building at least when he was transferring from Saleh from Saleh to D'Amico. And so like for Wilkes, this is all brand new. But my friend is a Bucks fan. I was telling her that Christian McCaffrey could make a case to win MVP if the 49ers were to get the number 1 seed. Yeah. And her response was, well, wouldn't Purdy? Because my thought was, the problem he would have is he's a running back. And so then her response was, well, wouldn't Purdy get it then? Because he is a quarterback. And I was like, no, that I don't think so at all. So who do you think? I'll ask you 2 questions, but I'm going to start with who do you think is more valuable to this team, to the winning streak that they've been on, Brock Purdy or Christian McCaffrey?
Well, first, it's weighted because quarterback is the most important position on the team. So that gives a little bit more weight for Brock Purdy. But the reality is, if you look at what they're doing right now, if CMC continues to play the way he's playing, if he continues to trend the way he's trending, if there's no decline there at all, CMC is the MVP of the league. And it doesn't happen very often for running backs. The last time was like Adrian Peterson, like a long time ago, maybe 10 years ago. But legitimately, if CMC continues to run for as many yards and as many touchdowns and catch as many passes and continues to trend the direction he's trending, you're talking about a record-breaking season for CMC and a almost zero question MVP of the league. So is he the MVP of the team? Yeah, he is. And if you're looking at Brock Purdy's, he's doing really good. Like people really don't like objective analysis of Brock Purdy in this fan base. But if we're being honest, Brock Purdy's trending 20.75 touchdowns. That's not a lot. That's not a lot. So no, to me, there's no way you can say Brock Purdy's the MVP of this team or of the league at all. CMC is definitely the MVP of this team, and he's trending to be the MVP of the league right now if he continues at this pace. So I don't think there's a real question in that regard. Now, if you take the quarterback out of it, if you took Brock Purdy out of it, this could be a different team. I don't want to see Sam Darnold out here running this team. And the quarterback position is really important, and Brock Purdy's doing a great job. I'm not trying to knock him, But no, I mean, CMC is like a Hall of Famer. Brock Purdy is TBD at this point.
I completely agree. I think Christian McCaffrey will get a touchdown in this game, so that'll be 14 straight games. And I think him and Kyle Shanahan are going for it's a guy named Lenny Moore. I only know this because Steph Sanchez tweeted about it a couple days ago, but he had 18 straight touchdowns. I think that the 49ers are going to try to go for that because I feel like they'll be in the playoffs. I think they want Christian McCaffrey to break that record for sure. I also think he is. I think I was asking about MVP, and I think he'll have an opportunity for MVP of the league. Obviously, we never know what quarterbacks on other teams are going to do, and the league does seem to give nods to quarterbacks when it comes to that award. But if he was to keep up the same production, not get injured, and the Niners were to continue their success, I feel like he would have an extremely strong case. And I know Kyle Shanahan was asked about that, and he kind of was like, oh, well, like the only problem is statistics. So like, I'm going to have to give him even more touches, which I found kind of hilarious just watching as a fan, because with all the discussion and even coming from myself kind of being like, we should settle on running CMC literally every chance you get. And he was like prompted that question. He was like, that's a great idea. I'm going to get him the ball more. It was
right.
kind of hilarious. But taking that from our opinions, which one do you think that Kyle Shanahan thinks is more valuable? Because we've kind of talked about Kyle Shanahan's the new way that he's speaking about his quarterback and whether or not he's evolved as whether or not this has been a mental discussion or if he's just so in love he can't help himself but to gush about his new guy. But I think if there was this was like Flavor of Love and people were competing for Kyle Shanahan's affection, that Christian McCaffrey might win. So I am curious, in your opinion, who do you think that in his heart of hearts, maybe not what he would say outwardly, but in his heart of hearts, who do you think Kyle Shanahan thinks is more valuable to this team, Christian McCaffrey or Brock Purdy, his new guy?
The tough part about it is because the quarterback is so important, right? It's so important. Like, they touch the ball in every freaking play. Like, if you don't have a serviceable quarterback, you can't just hand the ball off, right? So
they have Steve Young at backup, though.
No, they do have the next Steve Young. That's true. So maybe they could go with Big Red there. No, I don't know. That's a tough question. I think he knows what's up. I think he knows exactly what we're talking about right now. That CMC is really the big force behind this offense right now, but he also knows that you need a serviceable quarterback in order to make everything work. And Brock Purdy is doing a great job at that. So I don't know. I think he would feel the same way we do. He knows CMC is that guy, but he wouldn't move on from Brock Purdy unless he had a replacement, because that quarterback position is everything. You got to have a good quarterback if you want to compete in this league. And he does right now. So I don't know. It's a tough question. I think he would just answer the same way we're answering right now.
I agree. I think like if you had to, because the way my friend phrased it is they were said, if Kyle had to trade one of them right now, which one would you do? And I was like, well, luckily that's not a problem that we are or that the 49ers are currently facing. I feel like it would. I don't know, because I did make that joke about I feel like Kyle has a little cockiness to him, so he could be like, nah, I'll do it with Sam too, and just keep Christian McCaffrey.
He might honestly. Maybe he turns Sam Darnold into the next big thing. Maybe he is the next Steve Young. Sam Darnold can throw the shit out of the ball. It's the mental part, but maybe Kyle can work with that. But I have a feeling if Sam Darnold has to play like extended games, he's gonna be a little Jimmy G-ish, and I don't think Kyle's gonna appreciate that at all. So I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
Hopefully we don't. Hopefully we don't see.
Actually. Yeah. Hopefully we don't. Yeah. Hopefully health and everything permits. I don't know if you want to. We don't have to spend too long on it because it's kind of older news. But with this theme of Kyle Shanahan evolving and everything, I know I kind of keep going back to that. We see him being more positive about his quarterbacks. We know that a lot of players think of him as a player's. Maybe not players coach, because they do talk about him kind of giving it to them straight and like not sugarcoating everything, but in a way that they really respect. But Jimmy Ward did go on the Richard Sherman podcast. I don't know if you caught what he said. I'm not super. He made some comments about him thinking that Jimmy Garoppolo could have potentially have played, but maybe was having a standoff with Kyle Shanahan. I was less interested in that and more interested in the fact that Jimmy Ward said that he and Kyle Shanahan did not speak to each other after the Bucs game because Kyle basically got mad that Jimmy Ward was a bit frustrated with him toying around with his position and stuff. And with this, I was just interested in your opinion on that because I feel like giving Kyle a lot of credit, seeing how he's treated the season so far, but obviously they're winning, so there's not a ton to criticize. But I found that like a window into maybe not a star, not like Debo. You ask Debo and he's like, "Kyle's my man," and I thought that I really appreciate Jimmy Ward's openness and honesty, and I found the interview interesting. So I didn't know if you had comments.
Yeah, I mean, well, the one thing I thought was interesting, man, how you talked about Jimmy G. I did think that was interesting because I reported that. That's what a source told me at the time, and everyone gave me a bunch of shit about it. Am I allowed to cuss on your channel? Because that's like the third time. Just let me know if you don't want me to cuss.
I think so. All right. Is there like a YouTube problem?
YouTube allows it. It's up to you.
Though, oh, okay. Right? So, yeah, I don't care. I accidentally said the F word in my very first solo stream, and my dad like texted me after, and he was like, "Don't cuss or whatever, or cuss less." Good. He also told me to stop interrupting when I was on my show with Vish. My dad's just been giving me all
good for him.
He's one of the like very few people in here all the time. So I'll stop interrupting you.
And I'm assuming he's a Niner fan too, right?
He is. He's why I'm a Niner fan for sure. My baby blanket was a 49er blanket.
Good dad. What a good dad that you got there. But yeah, back to what I was saying. I thought it was interesting what he said about Jimmy G because that's what I heard, and so it's good to hear that confirmation. But in regards to him and Kyle Shanahan and that relationship, what I think you see between those two guys is just very different. I love Jimmy Ward. Like one of the things I wanted the Niners to do this year was bring Jimmy Ward back. He was probably my favorite player on the 49ers defense when he was here. I love him. But at the same time, Kyle Shanahan has to make the decisions when it comes to who's playing where and doing what. And Gibson was balling his ass off. Originally, when Gibson was back there while Jimmy Ward was hurt, I'm like, okay, when Ward comes back, we got to put him back there. But Gibson is such an underrated player on this team. He is playing really well. He's playing as good as you can ask from a safety. So as well as he was playing, it was really hard for Kyle and even for me as a fan. Like I love Jimmy Ward. He's one of my favorite players, but I'm watching Gibson play and he's doing a fantastic job. And you don't, as a coach, because I coached basketball for 10 years, as a coach, if it's not broke, you don't fix it. And it wasn't broke. So you don't want to mess with that. You don't want to have Gibson on the bench when he's a good player just to put Jimmy Ward back at his position. So I understand why Kyle Shanahan made the decision he did, but I also understand Jimmy Ward's personality and why he felt the way he did. And that's just the nature of the beast. I don't knock Kyle Shanahan for what happened with Jimmy Ward. I don't. But I also understand where Jimmy Ward's coming from. He's been moved around a lot. So I get both perspectives. I don't think either one is wrong.
Can I interject?
Sure.
I love your perspective as a coach, and I agree as a fan kind of Jimmy Ward being like, okay, I want Jimmy Ward to come back because I just like him. I think he's given so much to this team, and you kind of like get that, at least I do as like a fan, get that loyalty towards a player and everything. Yeah. So I do understand Gibson's performing great. This is a product. We need to win games. You have to put that first. So I don't blame Kyle for that. But I do think that like this, because I'm more like I'm interested in Kyle as like his personality, his like characteristics. And when you go back to Brandon Ayuk in the doghouse, Deebo Samuel had to go tell Brandon Ayuk that he needed to go show up at Kyle's office because Kyle didn't make that effort to repair that relationship. When we're talking about Kyle and how he's treating Purdy right now that they're in this honeymoon stage versus how he treated Jimmy, maybe if there was tension or resentment towards Jimmy. I mean, and we're not in the room, but so maybe he did this, but you could gather from what we've heard about Kyle's interactions when he's in terms of conflict that maybe he's a bit avoidant and doesn't do a really good job at like being the person to initiate resolution, which like as a coach, I feel like is super important that you're the one doing that, not putting that on these, 20-year-olds.
Here's my thing on that. You're getting to a point that I've been saying for a while, and people don't like it because they don't like when you talk about Kyle Shanahan negatively at all. And it's just being honest criticism. I don't think Kyle Shanahan has a strong EQ. He's very intelligent. He's a genius when it comes to play calling, but his emotional intelligence, the way he deals with players. One thing as a coach that you got to learn is how to deal with every player. You don't deal with them all the same. There's some guys need to be hard on some guys. Some guys you gotta kind of nurture and talk to, right? So he could have addressed this situation with Jimmy Ward in a different manner, right? Like he didn't have to let him play safety. He could have still kept him at nickel, but it's the way you talk to Jimmy Ward and the way you pull it out of him. Like, hey, Jimmy, man, like, I'm not gonna do it right
and
now.
Jimmy touched on that. Jimmy touched on that. He said like that Kyle Shanahan tried to basically play dumb and be like, oh, like what do you mean, man? And Jimmy was like, just don't treat me like I'm stupid. Don't treat me like what you're doing hasn't been a pattern. Like approach this with respect. Like Jimmy Ward said going into the Chiefs game when he had his broken hand, he knew that he had to play because he knows what it is. He's been in the league. He understands, it's not all sunshine and rainbows, but I think where he because he said him and Kyle Shanahan to this day, like they didn't have an exit interview. They did not talk. And I think what made that happen with Jimmy Ward was kind of like, hey, don't like, this is like such a gross analogy, but what is it, like shit in my hand and tell me it's flowers or something like that?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
But it's like, don't BS me basically. And like have this conversation with me like a man kind of, I think is what Jimmy Ward's
it's not what you say, it's how you say it sometimes.
Yeah. And I'm wondering if you think that Kyle, that's something that we can make any conclusions on. Do you think Kyle has reflected on that being a poor thing that he did and wants to change that? Do you think that Kyle has any urge to reflect on anything like that? Or if he's winning games and doing fine, that he does not,
I don't think Kyle. I think Kyle. This is my system. This is how we run it. This is how I feel. This is how we're gonna do it. I don't think he is good at that. That's why I've said it before. I said it on Twitter. I don't think he has high emotional EQ. Right. I don't think I don't think he can put himself in the perspective of others and finesse those situations really well. I think he's pretty cutthroat when it comes to things like this is what we do. Period. And I don't think he's very self-reflective on, oh, I need to do a better job because Jimmy Ward came out talking trash about me to Richard Sherman. No, I don't think that's who he is. I think he's just going to continue to do things he's doing. Now, I'm not saying he can't evolve or get better, improve at certain things, or that he doesn't want to. I'm sure he does, but overall, I think Kyle's who he is, and I don't think we can expect a lot of big changes in that regard.
That's interesting. You do like notice kind of like a lack of empathy, which is interesting coming from a coach that has been pretty successful, but does have like a lot of players that do talk very highly of him. But it is probably not a coincidence that those players are also incredible talents that have been paid lots of money.
Yeah, well, when you're good, it's easy, right? When they're good and they're running and they're doing great in Kyle's system, it's easy to have that relationship. It's when you have those adversity, and I don't think Kyle's great at those situations.
Yeah. That will be it'll be interesting to see if for the rest of the year, the Niners just keep blowing out people and winning all their games 17 and 0.
Yeah.
Or if Kyle Shanahan does need to face some adversity and evolve. I hope that previous years losing in the NFC championships, making it all the way up the mountain and then crumbling down. I hope that you would hope that reflect or causes some self-reflection and maybe Kyle should look more into personality stuff than just play calling and just the plays. I think fans can kind of underestimate how important that is when we're talking about how great Brock Purdy is. I think his escapability, super good. His ability to make quick decisions, super good. When you talk to the players and you ask them why Brock Purdy is great, they talk about his leadership and his confidence. And obviously, if they were losing, that wouldn't matter. And, they did similar stuff with Jimmy G. But I think mindset has a lot to do with success. And I think that would be important. But
Absolutely.
And I think the 49ers mindset going into this Cowboys game, to wrap it up, is that as long as they are physical and stick to their how they want to apply their offense. And
what's your score prediction, Ashley?
I think it's That's so interesting. Like, do you think it's going to be above 30? I think it's going to be a lower scoring game potentially because I think both teams want to run the ball, but I could see Debo going off. I don't have an exact prediction yet. You go first and I'll come up with mine in my head right now.
Yeah, I got 27-17 is what I've been saying for the last 2-3 days. 27-17 Niners. That's my prediction. I think they'll score a little less than normal because of the Cowboys defense. This is going to be the best challenge for the 49ers have faced, but I think they can still hold the Dallas offense below 20. So 27-17 is my prediction.
I like that. Okay, I like 27 because I was thinking that too. I was like, probably get like 3 touchdowns, 2 field goals. I like that. I think I could see the Cowboys getting 2 touchdowns and a field goal. I like that prediction. That's
You're still in my
me.
prediction now, Ashley.
Can I just steal yours? I think it's great. No, I want to be bolder.
Okay.
I'm going to add 7. I'm going to do 34. That seems. I'll do 31. I'll do 31 for the Niners. I'll do 31 for the Niners. I think they'll do 4 touchdowns, 1 field goal. I think the Cowboys will get 2 touchdowns and 1 field goal. 30. Cool. So 7. I'm going to steal your 17, but I'm going big with the. I believe we're going to score 30 every game. Cool. I so appreciate you coming on my channel, Ryan. Thank you so much. When I reached out to you, I've been watching you since before you had your own channel. I was watching you on other people's channels, and then loved like I was saying earlier, loved that when you started your channel, you were interviewing people, really like your approach, and you can tell that you're a fan, and you've been really helpful for me and just my confidence in getting this started. So I was really appreciative that you were able to come on. Also last minute too, which not great for me to ask you last minute.
It's all good. You're doing a great job. Just keep doing you, and you're going to keep getting better and better. And I appreciate you inviting me on the show, and I'm glad to be here, and I'm looking forward to watching your growth as well.
Thank you so much. Well, we'll do it again. And thank you guys. Everyone, hit the like button, subscribe, all those things. I'll get Ryan's channel. You guys, if you're here, might literally just be here because he's here. So you're probably all subscribed to him already. But if not, I'll have it in the description. Thank you guys so much. And let's beat the Cowboys.
Thanks, Ashley.
Me and this. Little awkward.
It's all good.